What if the face you adored was never real? A single crack in Menglong's flawless mask has unleashed a storm of truth, one so dark, so chilling. It threatens to destroy everything he built. Behind the charm, behind the fame, lies a secret no one was ever meant to see. Let's uncover the shocking truth together, right here, right now. What if the face you loved was never real? What if every smile, every tender glance that made millions fall in love with him was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion, a masterpiece of deception painted over flesh and bone? When the first crack appeared on Menglong's perfect face, no one noticed. Not his devoted fans who worshipped his every move. Not the directors who called him the man the camera was born to love. Even the media that built his image into something divine. But somewhere, beneath the soft lights and smooth filters, something dark was waiting to surface. And when it did, it didn't just ruin a career, it rewrote the meaning of perfection itself. The story begins not with fame, but with silence. Years before the headlines screamed Menglong's mask of lies shattered. He was simply another ambitious young man from Hunan, shy, polite, almost invisible. Those who knew him back then often described him as gentle, but distant. Someone who smiled without showing his teeth. Avoided mirrors as if they were dangerous. He entered the industry quietly. First as a background actor. Then as a singer with a voice that could melt glass. But his breakthrough came almost overnight. After a single music video went viral. The world discovered his face, impossibly symmetrical, radiant, flawless. From that moment, Menglong wasn't a person anymore. He was perfection incarnate. Every magazine called him the man without flaws. Comment sections filled with phrases like "too beautiful to be human." Entire forums were dedicated to analyzing the geometry of his jawline. The way his eyes seemed to reflect more light than they should. Steam capitalized on it, of course. Endorsements flooded in, luxury perfumes, skincare, jewelry, and soon, movie offers. In every role. Cast as the embodiment of purity, love, and sacrifice. But beneath the glittering stage lights, something didn't add up. During an interview, one journalist asked him a simple question: "What scares you most?" "You smiled, that slow, cinematic smile that had made millions faint," said softly, "losing my face." Everyone laughed, they thought it was a metaphor. But the way his fingers brushed his cheek, just slightly trembling, told another story. In the months that followed, strange things began to happen. His schedule became increasingly secretive. He canceled public appearances, refused live interviews, and reportedly fired 3 makeup artists within a week. Paparazzi photos showed him wearing oversized masks long before they were fashionable, claiming sensitivity to sunlight. Fans thought it was eccentricity. Others whispered he was hiding something. The first rumor came from an anonymous entertainment assistant. "He doesn't let anyone touch him," she said in a forum post that was quickly deleted. "He wears gloves when he shakes hands." Once, his mask slipped for a second backstage, and I swear, what I saw didn't look human. The post was dismissed as fan fiction. But the seed was planted. Soon, internet detectives began comparing old photos, from his early modeling days to his most recent red carpet appearance. Something subtle but uncanny emerged. The face was the same, but the aura had changed. The eyes were colder. The skin texture unnaturally smooth, almost wax-like under certain lighting. Some called it the result of filters. Others suggested surgery. But one particular image, a candid taken without retouching, showed faint lines along his jaw, almost like scars. Then came the accident. During the filming of an action drama, stunt reportedly went wrong. Yu was hospitalized for minor injuries. The production team downplayed it, saying it was a scratch near the cheekbone. After his recovery, he disappeared from the public eye for 6 months. When he returned, everyone gasped, because somehow, impossibly, he looked better. Not just healed, perfected. The symmetry was sharper. The complexion brighter. His expressions smoother. Almost mechanical in precision. "It's like he came back reborn," one co-star commented. Fans rejoiced, saying he looked heavenly. But for those who knew him personally, there was something uncanny in the way he blinked, too slow, too deliberate, as if rehearsed. One photographer described the chilling encounter during a magazine shoot. "I asked him to smile," she recalled, "and he did. But the corners of his mouth didn't move naturally. It was like watching a mannequin come to life. Still, Success continued. His next film broke records. His fan base reached global proportions. And yet, with every triumph, the whispers grew louder. Someone leaked a hospital receipt under his name, the address traced to an underground clinic specializing in experimental facial reconstruction. The receipt was dated the same week as his so-called accident. Citizens speculated everything from botched surgery to identity theft. But what truly ignited the firestorm was an anonymous email sent to a leading entertainment reporter. The subject line read, "There's another man's skin." The message contained no evidence, just a chilling sentence. "The face you see is not his. The man you love no longer exists." At first, it sounded like a cruel hoax. But the reporter couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. Against the advice of her editor, she decided to dig deeper. That's when things started to spiral into darkness. Her investigation led her to a retired surgeon in Seoul, rumored to have pioneered biosynthetic dermal transference, a banned procedure that allowed one to graft living skin from one person to another with near-perfect blending. She presented him a blurred photograph of Menglong. The doctor went pale. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice trembling. This was one of my patients. But I was told he died." When she pressed for details, he refused to speak. Later that night, his clinic was vandalized. All files were gone. The next day, Menglong's agency released a vague statement, "Our artist values privacy. Please refrain from spreading baseless rumors." The denial came too quickly, too rehearsed, as if prepared in advance. Fans flooded social media with hashtags defending him. Yet beneath the surface, doubt began to spread like a virus. Meanwhile, the reporter kept digging. She discovered inconsistencies in used medical records, overlapping names, and one particularly haunting piece of data, a missing persons report from 5 years earlier. The victim, a young actor named Lin Soheo, bore an uncanny resemblance to Menglong's post-accident appearance. Lin had vanished after a car crash in 2020. The body was never found. The case was quietly closed. Coincidence? Maybe. But coincidences don't leave surgical receipts behind. As she pieced the puzzle together, coincidences turned into patterns. She tracked down a former assistant who agreed to meet her under the condition of anonymity. They met in a dim tea house at midnight. The assistant looked nervous, glancing over her shoulder before whispering, "You don't understand. He isn't the same person. The man who came back from that hospital isn't you anymore." Porter asked what she meant. The assistant's eyes filled with tears. His voice changed. His scent. His handwriting, even his memories. "Once, he called me by a name only Lin used to call me. It was like he remembered someone else's life." The reporter's blood ran cold. She tried to verify the assistant's story, but within a week, the woman quit the industry, deleted all her accounts, and disappeared. The more the reporter searched, the more resistance she faced. Her phone began receiving silent calls in the middle of the night. Her emails were hacked. One message, signed, simply read, "Stop digging. The truth isn't yours to reveal." Obsession had already taken hold. The deeper she went, the darker it became. Late one evening, she found herself standing in front of Menglong's villa, an immaculate mansion surrounded by high walls and motion sensors. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant. Through a window, she caught a glimpse of him, or something that looked like him, staring at his reflection in the mirror. Slowly, he reached up and peeled something from his cheek. She gasped. Beneath the soft lighting, a faint seam glistened along his jawline, as if the skin itself wasn't entirely his. That night, she couldn't sleep. The image replayed endlessly, the way he touched his face, the emptiness in his eyes. The next morning, her editor found her sitting at her desk, typing furiously, eyes wide, muttering, "It's not a man anymore, it's a mask pretending to be human." When her article draft leaked online, chaos erupted. Fans demanded answers. News stations replayed old footage, zooming in on every frame. "Look at his neck," one commentator said. "See it, the line." But the agency fought back. In lawsuits, Menglong posted a brief video message, calm, gentle, his tone heartbreakingly sincere. "Who I am. Don't believe lies." It should have ended the rumors. But instead, it made them worse. Because the video didn't feel real. Hiding was unnatural. His movements were too smooth, too symmetrical. was as if the image itself had been manipulated, or as some claimed, pre-recorded by someone else entirely. Then, the reporter had vanished. Her last known message to a colleague read, "I have proof. It's under the skin." She was never seen again. And you, Menglong? He continued, smiling on red carpets, appearing in commercials, charming the world. But those who met him in person described an unsettling sensation, like standing in front of something almost human, but not quite. His eyes were too perfect, his face too still. Then came the final clue, one that shattered the illusion forever. During an overseas concert, the blazing stage lights, the heat became unbearable. Cameras captured a brief, horrifying moment. A thin strip of skin near his temple peeled slightly, exposing something pale and glistening underneath. Footage went viral within minutes. Hashtags exploded. Fans fainted. Others screamed CGI. But those who saw it live swore it was real. In that instant, perfection crumbled. The mask of lies had begun to fall. And behind it, something monstrous was waiting to be seen. The night the video surfaced, the world stopped breathing. Clips of Yu Menglong's temple glinting under the stage lights played in endless loops, dissected frame by trembling fingers. Millions replayed it, zooming, slowing, pausing, until the pixels themselves began to bleed. What had been worship turned to dread. The man once praised as the face of an angel now looked like something trying desperately to remain human. Publicists panicked. Studios withdrew his posters. His social media accounts went silent. Within 24 hours, the idol who once ruled Asia vanished into the fog of scandal. And yet, the silence only made the noise louder. A small tabloid posted a single headline. "Reporter missing after Yu Menglong investigation." The same reporter who had whispered, "It's under the skin." The next evening, her laptop was found near the river. Police called it an accident. The public called it murder. And somewhere in the chaos, someone leaked a hidden folder from her drive labeled Project Lotus. Inside were documents, photographs, and a voice note recorded only days before she disappeared. "If you're hearing this," she said, her voice shaking, "means I was right. The man we know as Yu Menglong isn't just wearing a mask. He's the mask." The files traced a forbidden chain of surgeries spanning 3 countries, Beijing, Seoul, and Geneva. Work of clandestine labs experimenting with dermal identity transfer. The technology had been outlawed after a series of gruesome failures, graft rejections, identity breakdowns, psychological collapses. But someone had revived it, for one patient only. Codename, YM. Weeks passed before anyone saw him again. Rumors claimed he had fled overseas. Others said he was hospitalized, face decomposing under layers of synthetic tissue. But then, one night, the lights returned to the same villa the reporter had once visited. A lone figure stood behind the curtains. The man was thinner now, pale, eyes ringed with sleeplessness. Stared into the mirror. The same mirror that had betrayed him months ago. The surface trembled with condensation. Slowly, his fingers reached up and pressed against the seam at his jaw. The skin lifted, this time easily, like a glove. Beneath it was not blood, not bone, only a ghostly lattice of grafted tissue, pulsing faintly with artificial light. Whispered to his reflection, "You promised I'd look perfect forever." A voice answered from the shadows, a recording. Distorted, metallic. Action requires sacrifice. The sound came from an old cassette left by his surgeon. On the tape, the doctor spoke of a breakthrough. Merging human memory with dermal regeneration. "He remembers," the voice said, "and sometimes it remembers too much." Menglong closed his eyes. Behind his lids, fragments flickered, memories that weren't his. A car crash. Flames. A man's scream. Reaching toward him. And then, darkness. When he opened his eyes, tears carved pale trails down the graft. "Lin's Hiheo," he whispered, the name trembling on borrowed lips. Later, he appeared at a secluded monastery in the mountains. Locals said he came at midnight, wrapped in a hood, face covered in bandages. He donated vast sums of money and asked only for silence. But one monk broke his vow years later and described what he saw. "The man wept before the statue of Guanyin," the monk said. "He said he had stolen another man's face. Another man's life. He begged to give it back." No one saw him for months after that. Then came the broadcast. Without warning, Every major news outlet received a video file titled Final Confession. It lasted exactly 7 minutes. The room was dark, only by a single bulb swinging overhead. Menglong sat at a table, hands folded, cracked and peeling like old paint. His voice was calm. "They called me beautiful," he began. "They never asked what it cost." He spoke of the accident, the night his car skidded on the highway, crashing into another vehicle. The other driver was Lin Seo, a struggling actor who had always envied his fame. Lin died on impact. Or so everyone believed. But you, disfigured and delirious, was approached by a surgeon who offered an impossible deal, complete restoration using a donor. You never asked who the donor was, until the mirror began to speak. "Every night I hear his voice," said in the video. "He lives inside my skin. Sometimes I wake up, and I don't remember who I am. I see his memories, his mother's face, his lover's laughter. I am both of us now, and neither." Halfway through the recording, his gloves, the fingers were stitched with fine surgical seams. Then, trembling, he began to peel the graft from his face. "I wanted to see the truth," he whispered. "Here it is." The camera shook. Underneath, there was no recognizable face, only muscle and light. Layers of living memory woven into flesh. Smiled through the tears. "Perfection is a lie," he said. "It's the mask we carve into our flesh to hide what's broken inside." The screen went black. Authorities traced a video to a server in Switzerland. But Menglong was gone. Some believe he ended his life. Others claimed he fled under a new identity, another face. Conspiracy forums insisted they'd seen him walking through Paris, his features softer, almost serene. Said they'd heard him singing again, voice trembling but pure. Months later, police reopened the missing reporter case. In a sealed envelope at her old office, investigators found a letter addressed to whoever seeks the truth. "Don't hate him," it read. "He didn't steal the face. The face stole him." Attached was a final photo, grainy, taken from afar. A man standing on a bridge at dusk, unmasked, watching the sunset with half a face of scar and half of serenity. Whether it was Menglong or Lin Seo, no one could tell. The caption beneath simply said, "The skin remembers." As the scandal faded, the entertainment world rebuilt itself. New stars rose, each more flawless than the last. Yet every time a face appeared on a giant billboard, someone somewhere whispered, "Is it real?" Fan forums, debates raged between believers and deniers. Some said the mask had been nothing more than prosthetics, an artist's experiment gone wrong. Others swore it was proof of human vanity reaching its final stage, to trade one soul for another's beauty. But one thing was certain, the legend of Menglong had become more than a scandal. It was a mirror held up to everyone who ever worshipped perfection. Because perfection, once unmasked, nothing but skin. And beneath the skin, only truth remains. Years later, a small exhibition opened in Berlin titled Faces of Silence. Among its anonymous portraits was one sculpture unlike the rest, a half-finished bust. The surface cracked and luminous, caught between two expressions, one serene, one screaming. The plaque beneath it read simply, "Lin, the man who wore himself." Visitors said that when you stood close enough, you could almost hear a faint heartbeat pulsing from within the clay. Some swore it whispered a single line. That started it all. What if the face you adored was never real? And just like that, the lights dimmed. Only the echo of his confession drifting through the dark. Reminder that even the most perfect mask eventually cracks. And when it does, the nightmare beneath finally breathes. Everyone who dared to look beneath the surface, thank you. The story exists because of those who still believe truth is worth chasing, even when it hides behind beauty, fame, and fear. To the readers who held their breath through every line. The witnesses who spoke when silence was easier. And to the nameless souls who live between reality and illusion. This story is for you. May we all remember, perfection is fragile. But honesty, even when it hurts, endures.